There really is a massive shift happening on the planet right now. But I feel like a lot of people are not fully understanding what this thing happening on the planet that people are calling the Great Awakening is really about. People are a little bit confused. People are a little bit lost about what's happening. They don't fully understand. People are reevaluating their lives. They're questioning who they really are. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things that you need to know about the Great Awakening that will allow you to fully understand what's happening on the planet right now. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. So you got to understand there is a shift happening. People are really waking up, but a lot of people are a little bit confused around what's happening in their life, around why this is happening, what this whole thing that people are calling the Great Awakening really is. Like, what is the Great Awakening? What is it really about? We can use these words and we can sound bold when we say the word Great Awakening, but what does that really mean? What actually is the Great Awakening? Well, the first thing I want you to understand is that the Great Awakening is not an external shift happening out there in the world. This has nothing to do with anything happening in the external world. The Great Awakening is not an external phenomena happening in the world. I just want to make that super clear. The Great Awakening is an internal shift within you, the individual. And the individual then connects with the collective, but the collective starts with the individual. How does a collective come into being? With a bunch of individuals, and that starts with you watching this video right now. You have to understand that the Great Awakening is not an external phenomena happening in the world. It's an internal shift happening within each individual, and that individual is you and every single other human being on the planet. This is not an external shift. This is an internal increasing of consciousness. And even when I say the word consciousness, that has a negative connotation attached to it in society. Consciousness is just a deeper connection to the present moment, a deeper connection to the now. A deeper connection to right here, right now, not in the future, not in the past, but this present moment right now. An increase in awareness. And what does that really mean? That means a deep connection to who you really are, because that's who we are at the core. And you have to understand that this is not an external thing. If you think or believe that there's something happening out there in the world, that's not necessarily what the Great Awakening is about. This is not about belief systems. What this is really about is actually letting go of belief systems and transcending ideologies. This is just about having a connection to the present moment, period. And so the key is to understand that this Great Awakening is an internal thing happening within each human being. This is an internal shift in consciousness, not an external phenomena, but an internal shift. And there's a lot more that I want to say about the Great Awakening and how it all works, but that's the first thing I want you to understand, is that this is not an external shift happening. This is an internal, inside you, a shift happening within you. And it all starts internally. Now, the second thing I want you to understand is not to get attached to the label of the Great Awakening. You have to understand the Great Awakening is words coming out of my mouth. Like, that's all it really is. It's words. Think about it. The Great Awakening. It's just words. I could have called it the Great Consciousness. I could have called it the Great Being of Light. Like, it doesn't matter what you call it. The label doesn't matter at all. It's an internal shift. And the label is just words. That's all it is. The Great Awakening is words. 5D consciousness is words. Shift awareness is a word. Consciousness is a word. The Great Awakening is a word. But we as humans come up with words and labels to represent certain things. Now, the more important question to ask is, what is this word pointing to? I guess it's 3 words. It's a collection of words. But what is this collection of words really pointing us to? Because it's just a label. And the second thing I want you to understand is not to get attached to the label. Don't get attached to the label, because labels are just labels. The Great Awakening really is, ironically, to transcend labels and connect deeper to who we are in this present moment. So if I make a video about 5D consciousness, or star seeds, or indigo children, or light workers, or the 5D shift in like, it doesn't matter. You have to understand that we as humans, as egos, we use words to represent certain things, okay? And you have to understand that these words are just pointers. The word is not the actual thing. Like, even if you take a cat, for example, okay, this is gonna sound kind of silly, but bear with me here, because this is gonna, like, if you truly understand this very well may blow your mind. The word cat is not actually what a cat really is in actuality. It's a label, right? Like, I could have called a cat a dog in another dimension, like dog. You have to understand, I'm just like, what is even a word? A word is a collection of vibrations and sounds coming out of my mouth. And so if you get attached to the Great Awakening, and you get attached to some ideology around what's going on in the planet, you're missing the true essence of what the word is really pointing to, which is an internal shift in consciousness, not something happening out there in the world, not a belief system, not an ideology, no spiritual beliefs or new age beliefs, because all this can sound very new agey. And I think it is. I think that there really is a massive shift in consciousness happening in the planet. On this planet right now, planet Earth. But that can sound so new agey and unrelatable. You have to understand that what is really consciousness? Imagine in a video game, you're leveling up a certain skill set. See, we as human beings, we have strength, we have logic, we have physical health. Now, something to improve on, a skill set to get better at, is your consciousness and your self-awareness and your self-actualization. And you can actually use this to fully understand that this is not some new age thing happening. And you know what? It is very mystical. It is very magical. Okay, I experience mystical, magical things in my life all the time. But I think it's important to understand that the beliefs don't really help us to understand what's going on here. Having a belief around the Great Awakening is not going to help you to understand the Great Awakening. You realizing within yourself who you are as consciousness, see, even that can sound unrelatable, but it's true, is what is going to actually help you and allow you to grow into the human being that you're really meant to be. Not human doing, but human being. This is about connecting to our beingness. Now, the third thing I want you to understand is that there's a lot of challenge happening on the planet right now. People are really being challenged. You see, I used to talk about this a lot, and I still do, but when I started to take more consultations and truly connect with people that are actually going through a lot more challenges than I thought, because it's one thing to talk about these challenges and to discuss these challenges and hear about these challenges, but then to connect with an individual and see that there's a lot of people going through challenges around their career right now, around their finances, around what they're going to be doing, around their sense of fulfillment, around their sense of purpose, around what they feel they should be doing on the planet right now, because they don't feel like they're in alignment with their true path and what their heart and their soul really wants. And I want you to understand that part of the Great Awakening, the third thing I want to share with you about the Great Awakening, the third thing you need to know about the Great Awakening is that awakening happens in challenge and adversity. And this is what I've noticed in my life. It's almost impossible to wake up to the present moment and wake up from the dream that we're all in comfort. And I don't mean that in like a no pain, no gain kind of way, like push yourself into uncomfort. You could do that. You could push yourself into uncomfort if you want. You could do hardcore meditation. You could push yourself into adversity. That's one way to do it, to prepare yourself in advance. But if you don't do that, which you don't have to, the universe will push people into adversity and challenge inherently. And that's what's happening on the planet right now. It's almost like And see, this is more of a belief system. But based on what I'm seeing and my own experience and other people's experiences that I've connected with certain people and have seen their experiences, what I'm noticing is that awakening always happens in challenge and adversity. And so what I believe is that the universe is almost pushing the entire planet into a state of adversity and challenge so that the planet can wake up as a collective. Of course, what is the collective? It's a bunch of individuals. That starts with you. I think some people neglect the fact that the collective and a collective awakening is a bunch of individuals. It's one person at a time. The collective is a collection of the individuals. And so awakening is actually happening right now collectively because the entire planet individually is being challenged right now. People are at home. They're forced to pull their energy inwards. Now, what I did in my life is that when I started my spiritual awakening path, there's a lot of situations that happened in my life where I was kind of forced to meditate. I was dealing with certain family issues, certain health issues, which I'll get into in another video, not this video. And it's almost like the universe forced me to meditate, to pull my energy inwards. And so a lot of people are dealing with the same thing right now. They're being forced to pull their energy in. And I want you to understand that awakening actually happens in challenge. Only when you're challenged, only when you're faced with adversity, maybe some health issue, maybe a financial collapse in your life, maybe something happening with family. These challenges can turn into blessings. These challenges can turn into growth. We don't have to fall into a victim mentality. These things don't have to turn us into a victim. They can actually empower us and teach us who we really are at a much deeper level than we think. You have to understand that awakening only happens in challenge and adversity, not in comfort. And part of what's happening on the planet is to learn to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's the essence of what spiritual practice really is to some degree. It's totally surrendering into a sense of discomfort. That's what awakening really is. It's when your ego wants to hold on to the very last minute, and then finally we have it in us to surrender and realize that our mind was creating the suffering the entire time. And the story that we tell ourselves is what is creating all the suffering in our life, if not all of it, most of it. And you have to understand that awakening happens in challenge. So if you're going through a challenging time right now, you know somebody that's going through a challenging time, or you're seeing the challenges happening on the planet right now and you're resisting it, just understand this. All growth happens in discomfort. If you take even a butterfly, for example, when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, it has to break out of the cocoon, okay? It sounds kind of cliche, but it has to go through a ton of resistance. It has to. If you really start to analyze life, growth happens in discomfort. But here is the key that I want to leave you with in this video. Challenge and discomfort does not imply a resistance to the present moment. That's where we have the choice. We have the choice to release internal resistance. We have the choice to accept the challenge as it is and not resist the challenge internally. Because only when you resist the challenge internally is when it becomes a problem for a human being. But the problem is a construct created by the mind. It's almost like, imagine if the caterpillar was resisting that whole process of breaking out of the cocoon. It's like, this shouldn't be happening. I should just stay in the cocoon right now. Why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be happening. The butterfly doesn't have that. The caterpillar turning into the butterfly doesn't have that. It just has a deep knowing that the resistance is going to turn into a powerful change. And that resistance is going to be a catalyst. And the thing is that it's not necessarily that the caterpillar is resisting, it's just having a challenging time. I would argue that the caterpillar doesn't have any resistance at all, and it's perfectly in harmony with nature. And this is what humans are realizing, is that we don't have to resist the present moment. We don't have to resist these challenges. We can use these challenges to grow and empower ourselves. We can use these challenges to step up into a higher state of being, a deeper connection to our truth, a deeper connection to who we really are, and turn into the people that we know we're meant to be right here, right now. So that's all I have for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. As always, have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.